Well, hey folks, Doug Turnbull here from the NASCAR cave again, and I know, I'm lazy, right? I haven't written a blog this week, but I had to check back in with you to kind of break down these Michael Waltrip Racing penalties, and yes, you know what they are. 50 points docked to each of the Michael Waltrip Racing teams, the 55, the 15, and the 56. The indefinite suspension of spotter Ty Norris, who's also an executive vice president with Michael Waltrip Racing, and a $300,000 fine levied against the team. And with those points penalties being assessed before the chase standings, that means Martin Truex Jr. loses his spot in the chase and Ryan Newman gets in. That seems like a very fair punishment, and I want to applaud NASCAR for the most part, rectifying or trying to rectify a problem. They set precedent. Usually NASCAR does not overturn results. They try to come back afterwards, take penalty, whether it be points or money away, and try to slap teams on the wrist that way. Well, money hasn't shown that in the past. Matt Kenseth had everything but the win itself taken away for his light engine back a few months ago, earlier in this race season, but they appealed that penalty and had it overturned. He did have his pole position taken away, but you see the point there. NASCAR is getting closer and closer, and now by taking a driver who'd already made the press photos and everything taken for the chase, to take Truex out of the chase because of that intentional spin, what is being allegedly judged as intentional at Richmond at the end of that race that affected Ryan Newman and took him out. Putting Martin Truex Jr. out of the points there and putting Newman in the chase was the right call. What maybe is irking a lot of fans, what definitely is irking a lot of fans and some of the media alike, is the fact that Clint Bowyer, he got those points taken away before the chase too, so he starts the chase unblemished. He already had 0 wins. The points before the chase didn't matter anyway, and so he starts tied for 7th or 8th or so in the points. And that's not really going to hurt him in the long run. If NASCAR really gone all the way to hurt the team, maybe they take 50 points away for Bowyer, which is a huge penalty with only 10 races to go in the season. They take the 50 points away for Bowyer there and let him duke out for the championship. That's where the penalty was light. $300,000 is a lot of money. The money lost from Truex not being in the chase is a lot of money. And really, the other thing fans seem to be very upset about, you guys seem to be upset about, is that Jeff Gordon doesn't get any kind of retribution at all, except that Truex is taken out of the chase. Jeff Gordon couldn't get put back in the chase. Newman rightfully was, and Gordon fans are sitting on the outside wondering how they can kind of get that back. Well, Jeff Gordon took things into his own hands in Phoenix last year against Clint Bowyer for a totally different reason, but I will be interesting to see what Jeff Gordon decides to do. Monday was a big day for Ryan Newman. He gets back in the chase, and he's officially announced as the driver for the number 31. And after the race back on Saturday, Newman was pointing mainly to his pit crew as his pitfall. However, when asked about it at his Monday announcement just before these penalties came about, Newman was much more pointedly critical toward the Michael Waltrip Racing team. As it turned out, based on the statements made by team officials and what Michael Waltrip said on Twitter, it was a split-second decision for Ty Norris to decide to tell Clint Bowyer to spin. But a split-second decision doesn't generate code words, and it certainly seemed that there was a code word that suddenly made Clint Bowyer try to spin out and do so effectively. So whether it was Ty Norris's complete idea or not, it seemed like there was more in on it than just him, and unfortunately, he's the one that takes all the blame. Waltrip Racing does suffer. Big props to NASCAR for setting this precedent. Now what it's going to do, though, is likely make teams be more secretive in how they go about such shenanigans in the future instead of completely deter them. They still have one driver in the chase, being Clint Bowyer. They still have all their sponsors in place. Everybody's going to the racetrack. No one's being suspended. And that may be what it takes really in the future. Kenseth's case, the owner's points were going to be suspended on that number 20 Joe Gibbs Toyota for several races and effectively take that team out of any chance of making the owner's points chase, which is big in terms of money payoff. If you really wanted to hurt Michael Waltrip Racing, maybe completely hurt the owners. Take them out of the owner's chase. Do something like that to really show them, hey, you're not going to mess with the results of these sports. Another contradiction that comes up, another paradox of this, is the fact that NASCAR does its own things to not necessarily alter the race, we'll say, in favor of one driver of another, but to alter the complexion of a race. Debris cautions come out all the time that people question, and has NASCAR penalized itself for throwing out a debris caution after 90 green flag laps when the leader is leading by 6 seconds and it's only 10 laps to go in the race? No. They don't penalize themselves. So I think fans want to see a lot more clarity on that. Another thing we need to see more clarity on, no doubt, is restart rules. Now that we've set this precedent about changing results, maybe NASCAR can start looking into, at least on a questionable restart, throwing a yellow flag. Throw that yellow flag out. Restart it. Tell the leaders, hey, don't do that again. And then if they do it again, then give them the black flag. If it's anything questionable. In the case Saturday night, Edward said Menard spun his tires, kind of got into him. He had no choice but to beat him to the start-finish line, lest he be run over. But see, at Brickyard back in 2012 with Elliott Sadler in the inaugural Nationwide Series race there, Sadler felt he had the same kind of pressure. He was getting shoved from behind, couldn't get out of the throttle to let the leader get to the start-finish line, and unfortunately he got black flagged and lost the race. Richmond also burned Carl Edwards a year ago for the same thing. He beat the leader to the start-finish line. In fact, he thought he was the leader. NASCAR should think about waving off restarts more often, like what happens at a lot of local dirt tracks or a lot of local short tracks, and seeing if they can get that situation rectified. So it seems that NASCAR made a good opinion. They tapped into the fan base. They used, more than likely, their social media network center and really did a gut check of their decision. They came clean, supposedly, and said, hey, we didn't see the evidence there Saturday night, but we're willing to make it right now. And hopefully, just hopefully, a lot of the backlash the sport has taken, fans will at least reconsider that when they're going to write a blog or write a comment about it, and hopefully the same with the media too. So I applaud NASCAR for making this decision. It could have gone more to affect Boyer. It stinks for Jeff Gordon. I hate it for Truex also, because Truex, out of anybody here, really wasn't the offender. He was the guy that people were fighting for, and unfortunately Truex loses out on making the third chase of his career. I'm Doug Turnbull. Stay tuned here to the WSB Race Blog. I promise I'll write something soon, but I had to get this out here this week in just these few minutes. Thanks for watching, and if anything else happens, I hope we have a quiet week until Chicagoland, but we'll be right here for you. Thank you, guys.